Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Elad Pod. Today we have Chris Hyman on. She is running for Missouri House District 105. We'll be talking about her campaign today and really whatever you all want. So as you are watching today, wherever you're watching from, if you're able to comment, you can go ahead and do that. We'll be able to see your questions, where you're from. Debbie's already on. Very excited to see you, Debbie. If you would like to, you can also text questions in to the number that you'll see on your screen, or if you're watching at eladgross.live, you're already seeing that number. Don't call it. I'm not going to pick it up in the middle, but you can text it. I'll check it, and we'll try to get as many questions that you have answered as we can. While we're waiting to start, if you could, go ahead and share the video so we can get more folks in. If you're on Twitter, retweet it. If you're watching it on Facebook, you can share the video, and that way we can get more folks in the conversation too. So we'll be on in just a little bit with Chris Hyman. While you're waiting, share it and also let us know where you're watching from. So we will see you in just a little bit. Get your questions ready. That should be a good one. All right, Missouri, and everybody else who's watching, welcome to the Elad Pod, a town hall program designed to bring our government back to you. For those of you who I do not know, my name is Elad Gross. I'm the host of the Elad Pod, and today we have Chris Hyman on. She is running for House District 105 in Missouri. Very excited to have her on. We'll be talking a lot about her candidacy, but also about her work that she's done for Missouri, even before this point, and what got her running in the first place. We're getting very close to the election. So for those of you who still need to get an absentee ballot or get a mail-in ballot or just get answers about how in the world do I get a ballot right now, you gotta hurry up. Now's the time to do it. And you can go to votemissouri.org at any time to make sure that you are updated on your all of the information that you need to know to make sure that you're able to vote. It's very important to get that done. Deadlines are coming up very soon for you to be able to do that, so please, folks, make sure that you're able to vote on November 3rd. If you, whether this is absentee beforehand, whether it's on the day of, just make sure you have a plan to do that. It's very important. So Chris Hyman is one of the wonderful candidates that we have here in Missouri. Going to bring her on in just a moment. If you're watching, wherever you're watching from, you can go ahead and participate in the show by putting in your comments, and that can be over on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, wherever you're watching from. We'll be able to see that on the show and be able to get you up on the screen if you've got a good question that we can get an answer to. Even if we can't, Chris is really good about this, going back and getting some answers too, and I try to do the same as much as I can. Also, please share the video to make sure we can get more folks in the conversation. And as you're watching, let us know where you're watching from. It's always a fun thing to see all the folks from all over the world really watching. And I get some emails from Germany every once in a while, too, from somebody who is a Missouri voter. So hello to you as well. But we're going to get started. I'm going to bring on Chris. So let's make sure I've still got our guest, because that's the most important part of this whole thing anyway. So, all right. Chris, are you there?
I'm here.
Hello. Hi. Welcome to the Elad Pod. Excited to have you on today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm
How is
excited too.
yeah, how is it going for? I mean, you're right there. Like we're getting close to this being over. How
Yeah,
are you feeling?
good. I feel good. A little
Yeah.
tired, but it's going great.
Yeah.
But so much better than I ever expected.
That's
So
great.
good.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, if you could, before we get into all the details of what's going on and everything, could you take a moment, introduce yourself to everybody, let them know where your district is? Because I know a lot of folks might not memorize all the numbers for the state, but if you could tell them where your
Really?
district, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some people might have maps. I used to have them all over the wall. Now I've got a flag. That's pretty cool. But yeah, no, we might have some people who might need some help knowing where 105 is.
Sure. Sure. House District 105 is St. Peter's. That's St. Charles County. So it's the district is mostly St. Peter's, and then I have a little bit of St. Charles City proper and unincorporated St. Charles, which is where I reside. And so, yeah, we're doing great. It's talking to the people has been amazing, and I'm not sure whether there's just a ton of people home or if there is just people are ready for change and they're taking those phone calls and they're answering the door. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to, and the conversations have been fabulous.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm really excited. I
Yeah.
know.
That's really
So
wonderful.
excited.
I mean, I mean, obviously, it's different this year, right, compared to
It
years
is.
before. But I think part of that is a lot of folks, even if we are doing it 6 feet or more apart, or we have masks on, I think a
Mhm.
lot of folks really want to have that conversation. They really want to know what's going on and
Mhm.
really want to connect with folks,
Mhm.
especially people who are out there and asking for their vote and have ideas for Missouri. So it's great to hear that
Mhm.
you're seeing a lot of people still.
Yeah, it's the conversations have been from I'm so excited I've never had a candidate call
Hmm.
to um, I'm so glad you called. I have questions
Uh-huh.
to oh, we have to change everything. I had somebody ask me the other day while I go behind my phone bankers, right? For people who are leaning maybe towards my opponent or are still undecided. And this gentleman asked me, he said, what is your past experience in politics? What seats have you held previously? I was
Hmm.
like, oh, great. And I said, none. And he said, good. We need to change everything. I was like, oh, shoot. So it was, and that was a great conversation. You try to make, the goal is to talk to as many people as you can. And so you're like, oh, I don't want to talk to you for 20 minutes. This guy was a fabulous conversation. And I've had people call me from him telling, I always say, tell five of your friends.
Hmm.
And they're calling.
That's great.
So it's been going great. It better than I ever imagined because I jumped in late, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no,
I
could
jumped
you,
in really late.
yeah, could you talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
Yeah. So my story and the whole reason that I'm running is because earlier this year, the first 3 months of the year before the legislature closed down because of COVID, I spent January, February, and the beginning of March until they kind of shut things down, testifying with my kids almost every week and some weeks more than one day. We had 19 anti-LGBTQ bills that went through our legislature this week, from ending same-sex marriage to a total medical ban on our transgender kids.
Hmm.
And so I spent days and hours and weeks in the Capitol. And right before they closed down, the very last hearing that I attended, um, it's just this way crazy story. It's supposed to start at 4. They delayed us until after 7, thinking that people would leave, and we didn't leave. People didn't leave. And we stayed, and it was a terrible hearing. The expert witness that they brought in was a conversion therapist. So our kids are all upset. We were, they're upset and scared. We're angry and scared as parents. And we just stayed. And it was after 11 o'clock that night when we left. We hung out for a few minutes, talking to some of the legislators that were on the committee. We hung around and, did, big hugs with everybody that was there to make sure everybody was still okay. And my kids and I walked out down that hallway. And I did the usual mom thing. Who needs to use the restroom before we have to leave? And are you hungry? Do we need to stop on our way home? And the next words falling out of my mouth were, I'm going to run for my rep seat, because earlier in that day, I had scheduled an appointment with him. He had not read the bill. He was on the committee to hear the bill. We were at that time or from what was supposed to be the start time of the hearing, and he just
Yeah. Yeah, the world of the bad internet. This is a good face, though. Usually I have to screenshot them when this happens in the middle of a meeting, but instead we've got this, and this is going to be... Poor Chris, that's okay. Yeah, internet's a problem in Missouri, unfortunately, in so many places, but I'm sure she'll be back in a little bit. But yeah, I actually had the opportunity while we're waiting for Chris, so I can say all of these nice things before she gets back on. But I had the opportunity to see Chris at the Capitol. Actually, I think that might have even been where we met before she was a candidate. But I'd gone down with some friends and some staff folks that I was working with, and we went, and there was there were all of these bills that were being heard at the same time, and they were trying to force through and really get these pushed. I guess there was, I don't know, somebody had the idea that there was some urgency around excluding so many, especially targeting children in Missouri, and that was being pushed through quite a bit. And Chris was there with her kids. There were a lot of kids that were there, a lot of kids that were testifying, a lot of people who wanted to testify. They're moving the times of the hearings to make it makes it harder for folks to be able to participate in government, which is unfortunate. But she was there, and she was there. The kids were there. They stuck through this whole thing, and they kept coming back, and they kept advocating for themselves. And it was, really, it was a great thing to see, and it was a great thing, really, to have folks who, like Chris, who work with kids and make sure that their voices are being heard in government too. And so, I know she had been very involved before, and hopefully she'll be able to tell you even more of the stuff that she was doing before then. Because she's calling back in now, so that's good. All right. But, yeah, I mean, she just an amazing advocate, and very excited to see that she's choosing to run now. So, Chris, are you back? You back with us?
I think I am, yes.
Okay, good. You know what? I got to tell you, I was going to hide it from you, but I was just saying all these nice things about you and describing. I think the first time that we might have met in person, I think, was in Jefferson City at the Capitol. And, just about like the number of kids. So I gave a little bit of background while you're off, but just the number of kids that were there. I mean, yours and so many others too, but that were there advocating, and that stayed despite the time changes, despite how packed the rooms were, despite like the time limits. I didn't even mention this, but the time limits that they started putting on testimony. And it's just so sad to have seen that, where you had so many people, whether you agree or disagree. I mean, in this case, we both agree, but with what the kids and everybody else was saying. Well, not everybody else, but on our side, we're saying that. But
not everybody.
Not everybody. Yeah, a couple of folks, not so much. But I mean, just to like see that, and then to see people in government, at those positions, whatever their opinions be, really not respect what that means and what that meant to so many people to come there and drive there and get there and spend their time doing it. But you were one of those folks who really One was pushing very hard and helping organize it, but two, with giving space for kids to sometimes that was their first time getting involved in government ever, and it was a really exciting thing to see for them for sure, trying to take that ownership and engagement in our state. I thought was a really cool thing to see.
It was. It had, there was good and bad in that, right?
Hmm.
I want my kids to be involved, right? Um, it was kind of a icky way to have to start the process to jump
Right.
in like that. But at the end of the day, my son has learned to advocate for himself from that,
Yeah.
and that helped. He's not afraid to talk to. It was one thing to talk to your friends,
Hmm.
right? Now he'll tell anybody because he's already seen the worst of the worst, right?
Yeah.
He's been up in people's personal space talking to them about, asking them, why
Right.
are you doing this? How am I different from you?
Hmm.
And there's no good answer.
Yeah.
So, but we're gonna get Mona passed, Elad. I'm gonna get there. We're gonna get it heard. That's Missouri Non-Discrimination Act.
Great.
We're gonna get that seriously heard, and it's time.
Yeah.
Human is human. I stick by that.
Yeah. 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 I think from and there's been a lot of decisions in the court system too, that
Mhm.
at this point. So, from a legal standpoint, I'm a very big supporter of MONA. That's the Missouri Non-Discrimination Act, which how many years are we on now? We're over 20. 20,
22.
22. Yeah, I thought it was like 21 or 22. Yeah, 22 years of trying to get this thing passed, and right now, for a long time in Missouri law, and then these court cases came up, but for a long time, discrimination against LGBTQIA plus Missourians in housing, in public accommodations, employment, all of these sorts of things were allowed. In fact, I think we were on the Daily Show at some point being highlighted for being able, having no protections whatsoever. But there have been some recent court cases that have been very important that actually indicate that one, Missouri Supreme Court, but also the federal Supreme Court, the United States
Mhm.
Supreme Court, both indicate those protections need to be there. So if you are in that boat now, certainly enforce your rights. And there are people out there, I'm one of them, but there's a lot of attorneys and other organizations out there who will help you do that. But I still think Mona is essential. It's something that we really need to do as a state for a lot of
Mhm.
reasons. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we tried to change even federal laws sometimes
right.
here,
Yeah,
and we don't need to go backwards.
right.
We need to move forward. It's such a crazy time right now with everything going on that there's so much division. We need to. I'm When I talk to people, I just want to go back to normal.
Hmm.
Let's just go forward because I don't think normal is going to look like what it looked like before. So
Yeah,
let's just go forward and let's make it better.
yeah,
And that's just what I'm trying to do. And that's what I put out there every single phone call, every single door knock, every single contact I have
hmm,
is let's just move forward and let's make it better. Because it can be better. We are better.
yeah. I agree with that. Very much, and having had the opportunity to travel around the state quite a bit, I think Missouri is not being served very very well by the folks that we have in leadership positions right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What are some things? So you talk about moving forward. So when you say that, as a legislator, and you've been so involved. There are some people who run for the first time who are great folks, and I think would do a good job, but they don't have as much knowledge of the process. And fortunately, this is good. In Missouri, there's like an orientation process for new folks. So
Yes,
we do some of that. But you
we do.
you have had quite a bit of experience in seeing what that process looks like. So,
Mhm.
when you talk to folks, what are issues that you are hearing a lot about in your district, and two, what are some of those that you really want to be an advocate for as a representative?
So when I first started, I was like, I had to come up with like all of the things are important, but I wanted to come up with, three or four. So healthcare, education, jobs, and then of course LGBTQ issues are my, those are where I advocate. That's what I've done in the past. That those are the people that I try to lift up. Um, and then COVID happened, and all of those first three things all play into, um, COVID affected, well, healthcare, obviously, and all of our frontline workers and our doctors and our nurses and our capacity in the hospitals. Education, parents everywhere had this hard decision to make about what to do with my kids. And each school district or each county was on their own. And so that has been the biggest, I think, issue that everybody's talked to me about. How re-entry went into school. Some started hybrid, some started all in person,
Mm-hmm.
some started all virtual. And now, some districts are bringing it back. No two districts are the same. And so that's one of the biggest things I hear from parents. And then so many people have lost their jobs, and we need to lift those people up as well. And we need to make sure that, okay, I need to find a job again, but I have my kids at home from school. How do I do all of those things? And so we need to put in place some things that are going to help all of the families with their jobs and their kids at school. And we need to make sure that we're doing something so that the spread of this virus slows itself down so people can get back on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things that I've, always done. And it just kind of all rolled into one. So those, I guess, are the three top issues I hear about most.
Yeah.
And then, you always have the hot button issues. If you get, it depends on who you're talking to. Sometimes you get the ones that just want to mess you up. How do you feel about abortion?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, I'll tell you. So, but I usually throw, I toss it back to them. Well, how do you, what is your stance on, those sticky ones first?
Yeah.
Because we still have more in common than we don't. We are divided.
Mm-hmm.
I've never see, I'm not, I like to say I'm young middle age. That's a thing. And it is really the most divided I've ever seen us in my time, paying attention to what's going on in local government or federal government or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, if I can get someone on the phone or at a door, we still have more in common than we don't. And if they'll talk, at the end of it, we walk away both feeling really good.
Yeah.
So that's my goal.
Yeah.
That's all that. How many days? 17. And that's all I'm doing.
Got the count ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to. I mean, at this point, every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've had that conversation quite a bit with folks around the state who,
Sure.
we might not disagree of. One of them, well, there was two that got a lot of attention from folks when I talked about, but one of them was at the GOP tent back when we had a state fair that everybody could go to.
Right.
And I was recruiting people out of the tent. And then the other one was a young guy who's over closer to Kansas City, but he wanted to intern initially for the current attorney general, and then heard about my campaign, and then we talked, and despite us disagreeing on a few issues, and abortion was one of them. That was one that's the reason why he was a Republican, or at least conservative was what he called himself. And at the end of the conversation, we talked for quite some time. He thought, well, look, I appreciate the honesty, and I appreciate where you're coming from, and I can understand, you're willing to have that conversation. Have you, I guess when you're talking to folks, so many of us now, either it's family members or friends or just on Facebook or whatever it might be. Facebook a little less so because that's a little crazy, but whatever floats your boat. But for real conversations that we're having with people, what have you found to be something, effective for you? I mean, you said like one of the things that you mentioned was throwing the question back to them to see where they're coming from. But what kind of, I mean, what have you found to be pretty effective in creating that conversation in the first place?
Well, the first question here often is, are you Republican or are you Democrat? And I'll always answer that question, but I tell them, hey, I'll tell you, but let's talk first.
Uh-huh.
And we talk first. And then I was like, do you still want to know? Because sometimes you can
Right.
tell,
Right. Right.
I said,
Right.
you still want to know where I see, you still want to know what ticket I'm running on? And there have been several people who have always voted just straight party line,
Mm-hmm.
right? That are not voting straight party line, and that's because it's because of conversation.
Right.
And on those sticky issues, uh, I have to, that's one we talk about out here a lot. Is the abortion issue. That's always the question. I can't vote for a Democrat because you're 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 pro-abortion, and that's where I stop them. It's like I am not pro-abortion. I have three beautiful children, so not pro-abortion. However, I am pro-body autonomy, and that goes for men as well as women.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't want anybody telling anyone, any government telling anyone
Right.
what they should do with their body. And so that is, I get a lot of on that.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we can, and then you have the conversations about, there's always, it's always Planned Parenthood that comes up. And once, if you can really have somebody who is listening to you, and I don't know, I don't know if I mom voice them or if I friend voice, I don't know what I do, but I can get people to talk, and by the end of the conversation, they know that that is the least amount of, or that is the one service they do the least amount of, that their tax dollars don't pay for it,
Mm-hmm.
and that so many women need the service for other things that they can't afford, because face it, our health insurance is most of the time tied to our job,
Right.
and if we're not working a full-time job or whatever job that offers insurance, a lot of people aren't being covered. And so it's an affordable way to access good health care that we need. And so that's the conversation that we have there. And by the end of that, I'm not trying to, hurt anybody who isn't born yet. I'm not telling anyone not to have babies. And that's where, we get to those conversations. And by the end of it, we're laughing at the conversation because it's, you brought up good points. Yep, so did you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we end, that's just how we end it. And that is the one sticky.
Oh. Chris was being profound. Are you back? You back?
I am. I
Okay,
needed
good.
to take a water break. Excuse me, I talked too much.
The computer knew. No, it froze you for a second too, right as you were doing something.
That's so funny.
It's good. Yeah, maybe it just knows what you. I don't know what you were doing last time, so maybe it's. Yeah, no, I think you're totally. It's I think so often now, folks are unwilling to even have the conversation. I can understand. Like, look, there's so many things that are going out there. You see it on TV. You're inundated with this stuff. You can't even escape this stuff. I mean, you could, but you're drawn into it and all this stuff happening. But I mean, for us, like that wasn't something. That's not something we can just or ignoring. You're trying to get a vote from somebody. You're trying to get people, and you're trying. Really, I mean, you're trying to see like what. Good government comes from not just trying to get, votes, because then you don't have to necessarily talk to them. You could do something else or whatever. But you're doing it
Well,
in a way where you really want to get that input, and that's, obviously something that you've been doing for some time already. So
yeah, that is,
yeah.
and that is how I close even the conversation
Mm-hmm.
that may not go the way I want it to. Maybe from the beginning, after they ask, what party are you with? Is that, what, however this ends up, I still want to talk to you. We may not always agree, but I want to hear you because that's why I'm running. My voice wasn't represented when I needed it to be.
Right.
And so I want everybody's input. We need to take our district back so that everybody is represented because that's not happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, I hate to use the word not fair, but that's not right. That's not how government works,
Right.
or it's not how it's supposed to work.
Right. Right. Well, that's, at least our perspective on that. Speaking of which, we got a
Okay.
question here. One, Debbie wants us all to know she's watching from South County from the comfort of her couch. That's good. I'm very happy. I'm very happy,
Excellent.
Debbie. This
Excellent.
is good. And we've got John who's watching. He is in St. Charles County. And I just love this question, so I'm going to add it so we'll be able to see
Oh,
it.
dear.
Yes, John says, what are your thoughts on the horrible Amendment 3? Horrible. I wonder what John's thoughts are on
I
the
don't
horrible
know.
amendment. I can't tell from the question, but yeah, I mean, speaking of government and how it's representing people, do you have any thoughts on
I mean,
horrible
I
Amendment 3?
have some thoughts on horrible Amendment 3. I do. Well, if we remember, horrible Amendment 3 was Amendment 1 in 2018 in August, and that was a citizen-led, that was put on the ballot in that August of 2018 election because of signatures collected from, voters across the state. And it's a gerrymandering bill, no matter how you want to cut it, what else is in it. And we passed it big in the state. I think the state was 60%
62?
in
Yeah,
my
62.
district. Yeah, and it was 63 and 63.5 in my district. And they didn't like that. We wanted, and that was we wanted an independent demographer to draw our district maps. Then sit well, and it started right away after that passed. And it started with, people did not know what they were voting for, which is hard to believe when it was a citizens initiative. It was a petition signatures that got it on the ballot in the beginning. So they decided they were going to not overturn, well, they're trying to overturn, right? Um, and they're going to put it back on the ballot here in a couple of days, weeks. Let's go with weeks.
Weeks, yeah.
And they've dressed it up a little bit, so it looks a little confusing because the first 2 points on it, they've made it look great. They're going to reduce lobbying gifts to zero. Well, it's $5 right now. So from $5 to zero, and I promise you there are loopholes in that. And then they're reducing contributions to state Senate campaigns by $100. Okay. Still true and okay. But the big deal is the gerrymandering part of it. And that is the third part. And this has been so confusing. The language they have used, and maybe a lot, it's been in court twice, right?
Yes, it has been.
Yes. And just to get the ballot language switched. So it was a little less confusing. And so what we want now, or what they would like to have, and what is on the ballot, is that it's a governor appointed committee to draw the maps, right? And so that no matter, I'm of the opinion, no matter which party the governor is, it shouldn't be appointed by the governor. It needs, I like independent demographer, right? Because then nobody's protected. Each district remains competitive. The other thing that's in it is it doesn't count everybody. It doesn't count anybody who's under the age of 18 or may not, correct?
Right.
So I have two teenagers who will be 18 before maps are redrawn again because they're drawn every 10 years right after the census. And so they would have no representation for several years because they're 13 and 14 now, my two
Mm-hmm.
youngest. And I mean, a lot of this legislation is directed toward one of my teenagers, that I have spent a lot of time in the Capitol for this year. And we need to have representation for everybody. We would be the only state that doesn't do that.
Right.
All the population needs to be counted. So my thoughts on horrible Amendment 3 are vote no. Let it stand. Let our vote stand as it was in 2018. We wanted it. Let's at least try it before you say you don't like it or it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's terrible Amendment 3. No on 3. Hashtag.
Hashtag, it is one out there. So yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, there's language in there, and I put it up on the screen while we were talking. See if I can make it a
Great.
little bit bigger for everybody too.
That would need my eyes to be able to work, to be able to
Yeah,
read
I
that
know it's a
screen.
little tough.
That's pretty
Yeah,
small.
it's a little tough, but I mean, you can find it if you search for Amendment 3. You'll be able to find it out there. It will be on
It's
your
everywhere.
ballot. Yeah, the language that I have up on the screen right now is the official ballot title, and so that's what you'll see on your ballot when you go and vote. That is has changed. That's exactly right. It changed from. So the way that this got on the ballot, Amendment 1 was a bit different. I've described this a few times before, but Amendment 1 was one where folks went, we got signatures, we had to get a ton of signatures, the people put it on the ballot, tons and tons, and you bring that over to Secretary of State's office, they check them, and then they say, okay, you have enough to now put this on the ballot, and then we had to then come back out and vote for it, and it passed 62% statewide, every senatorial district it passed, and just all over the state. There are a few places that said no, but not very many of them. So that was passed 2018, and now we're in 2020. State legislators apparently didn't like what we had just done, and so they decided to put this on the ballot themselves. They do not have to collect all of those signatures. They just have to pass it, and then it goes onto the ballot for us to approve it. And the reason that why do we have to approve it? It's a law, and don't they make laws? Well, this would be a change to Missouri state constitution, just like Clean Missouri was, and that requires our approval. So that's why we'll be seeing it on the ballot again. Now, you will see on the language on the ballot, it's not all of it, right? So it's just a summary of what those changes are. And one of the biggest changes that you will not see in the summary is that it will reapportion those districts, like the district that you're running in, the district all these folks are running in, and how we're being represented in government based on the principle of one person, one vote. And what the heck does that mean? Well, what it very well could mean, and what the person who helped write it said it meant, and then changed his mind, then changed it back, was that, if you can't vote, then you're not being represented. Then you're done. We're not going to represent you anymore. And we would be the first state to ever do that. We don't do that in America because the idea of having one representative for a group of people, the republic, the concept behind the democratic republic, is that those number of people, we want each district to have about the same number of people so that everybody has about the same access to their representative, whether they vote or they don't vote. If they're a person in America, then they get that access to their representative. And that's how it's been for kids, which is the biggest group of those folks. Even non-voters, we can talk about felon disenfranchisement, which no one's really talking about right now, unfortunately. Immigrants who might even be in the process of becoming naturalized citizens during that 10-year period between counts. And it's a significant mess. It's actually interesting because on the ballot language, if you actually read to the bottom, the implications of that also go into funding and how local towns and governments are going to be funded based on that count. And so it says the very last line of the summary that you will see. So read the whole darn thing if you don't believe me.
Read
But
it
the last
all.
line, read the whole thing. It says individual local government entities expect significant decreased revenues of a total unknown amount, because we don't know what that thing really means and who's going to be counted, who's not. So
Right.
it's a total mess. Amendment 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mess is a good word.
Mess is a good word. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a bad word, so that's why I'm voting no, but
Right.
Horrible Amendment 3, as John likes to call it.
Horrible Amendment 3.
Horrible Amendment 3. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Are there other, I'm in St. Louis City. I've seen some ballot issues, like local ones. Maybe it's like an increased use tax or something. 'Cause I know there's a lot of issues right now with from the business side of things with competing against online retailers that we haven't passed this statewide tax to basically equalize those small businesses that are here with an Amazon or Wayfair. That's why it's normally called the Wayfair tax. But are there any? I know there's some like localities that are trying to do that on their own because the state hasn't acted. Are there any other local issues that you have seen in your area? Maybe it's not even on the ballot, but like big things that you've seen that folks are also keeping in mind as they're voting.
We do have one other ballot initiative. The way our district is kind of broken up is we have a lot of healthcare workers, and then we have a lot of professional, and then the next one, is cool. I don't know what word I want. But it's first responders. I don't know what adjective I was looking for, but
Cool
they are
is great.
first responders.
Yeah, cool is great. Yeah,
Cool is great. I was
yeah.
trying to make it work in a sentence. It didn't work in a sentence. But we do have a ballot initiative on that, and that is for the fire department. And it is to help their retirement fund, because these individuals are working way past their time that they should, or they want to, or what's even safe in some instances, but they can't retire because they're going to rely on that retirement. Right. And so it's a small increase, and that one is not going as well when I'm talking on the phone as the opposition to No on 3. So we're trying to push that. They're doing a really good job of getting literature out, and there are signs all over the place here. So hopefully that goes through. It is small. We do the same thing year after year here with our school district.
Yeah.
And we finally got it done on a bond issue last time, but to increase, it was pennies that we were trying to get into our teachers so we could pay our teachers more. So we got, better services. So we have a really good school district. And Francis House School District is here in 105, and it's wins, awesome awards, but we still run into, yes, we have the ability to have Chromebooks for everyone. Yes. We pay our teachers probably better than some districts, but still it's never enough for a teacher. My daughter is a teacher, my oldest daughter is a teacher, and it's never going to be enough. But we're still using textbooks that are, in history, it stops at 9/11. Those are old books. So we don't like to raise taxes here. And I always ask the question, that's another big one. You want to raise taxes, you're a Democrat. And I'm like, nobody likes to pay taxes. I don't, just as much. My opponent is trying to rid us of personal property tax. I don't like to do it either, right? I don't like to pay personal property tax on my car year after year. But show me where it's going to come from, right? Because my background is finance. So I know if I take it from one place, I've got to get it from somewhere else, or nothing's going to balance, right? So we're either going to cut something we're going to take it away from somewhere else, or you have to show me what you're cutting, or show me where you're taking it from, or where we're going to get the extra revenue. And that's the piece. It sounds great. I'm going to not, with no taxes, no regulation, but show me where it's coming from. And I can't get an answer. so that, and then that's where you sit on that and you think about that. Where are they going to cut from? Oh, please, not education again. So that's those are the big ones here in my district, and that's all we have. We don't have a lot on our as far as other ballot questions. Here in November, which is, so I'm just make sure you just start at the top and go all the way over and maybe flip it over, because I haven't seen it yet.
Yep. Complete the ballot. Yeah, that's for sure.
Do the whole thing.
Oh man, it was so interesting. I think I finally have gotten them out, recycled. But I had, when you run statewide, you get a letter from every single election authority with the ballot. Yeah. Every single one in the state. Yeah. And they just
I don't have mine yet.
Oh my goodness. They just kept coming and coming. I'm like, wow.
I bet they did.
I didn't even I didn't know that they did that. But yeah, they send you the ballots that you see to check your name. And, at some point with that many, it's just there's only 4 letters in my first name, and that's what I go by the most. So hopefully you got it. If you didn't, I don't know if it's going to make that much of a difference anyway. So I hope you got it. But it's just, whatever. But yeah, make sure, though, you think you're done with that ballot, flip it over, just make sure there's nothing on the backside. If you're using a touch screen, keep scrolling, do whatever you got, but yeah.
Whatever you have to do.
whatever it takes, yeah.
Right, and if you need a ride, you call someone, you take your group, then you drive through for coffee, and you wait. You wait, and you wait, and you wait, and it shouldn't be hard. I can remember, I've been here for 15 years now, so I voted a lot, right, in 15 years. And the last presidential election in 2016, I've never waited before, and we waited probably about an hour and a half, which was, it's not 12 hours, but stick it out. Don't, if you're going to get there right before 7:00, go ahead and get there right before 7:00 and stick it out. And get your voice heard, because that's how change is made. People ask, what can we do? What can we do? You have the power to do it. Just go cast your vote.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And then if you are in a line, if you're seeing the line, this year, it will look a little bit more spread out. If you voted in the primaries, you saw that. If you might have seen some photos so far from folks who are voting absentee right now, the line will be a little bit longer looking, even if it is the exact same size, because people are being spread out, and that's something that, folks are enforcing at different polling places. So don't let that perturb you from standing and taking. And if you're there before 7, you're good. And you'll know, because there will be a guy from the election authority who comes out and basically becomes for those of you in education, the caboose of the line. So you will know at that point. But yeah, make sure to get there before 7. Make time to vote. Make a plan. You got some more days left. Chris is busy because she's got to go get all those votes. But you have no excuse. You make a plan to vote. Get your friends. Get everybody ready to go, and make it happen. But yeah, make sure to. It's an important thing, and it's an important right that preserves all of the other ones. So please participate however you can.
And if you are holding on to your absentee ballot, get rid of it. Fill it out. Send it back, and do it now.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of people call me, and they had a delay on what their initial ballot request, and now they're concerned. And so some of them took it to the election authority, but people are, I'm going to drop it in the mail. Don't hang on to those. Don't hang on to them anymore. Fill them out and get them gone, so that we're sure that they're there, because you want it. You want to count. You want your vote counted. I want my vote counted.
You better want your vote counted. No, yeah. If you do have your ballot, you still have it. You do have time to get it in. If it's an absentee ballot, that means it's one where you get to choose one of 7 excuses. You have to actually pick one. That means that you can actually take that ballot and you can bring it. You don't have to just put it in the mail. You can actually bring it to your local election authority. If it is one of the ballots where you didn't pick an excuse, those are called mail-in ballots, despite the fact that you can also mail in an absentee ballot. Those, right now, it's actually in court, so it might change, but right now, you cannot drop those off. You do have to put those in the mail to get them back. So those, you really need to get moving on to get those in time. If, however, you feel, oh goodness, I waited too long on my mail-in ballot, I waited too long on whatever else it is, now it's election day, you can still vote. Bring it with you to the polling place, and they will get rid of it for you. You need to bring it with you. Bring it with you to the polling place. They'll get rid of it for you, and then you can go ahead and vote. So,
Did they switch that mail-in vote for like 7 hours? You could you could drop it off, and then
yeah.
we could,
Yeah.
and now you can again. Now you have to mail it again.
It was in federal court, okay? So a federal judge looked at looked at the argument, and the argument was, hey, if you get a mail-in vote, right? Why should I have to put it in the mail? Like, one, people are worried about the mail and the timing, or if they're just procrastinating, whatever might happen, and now they want to go and they want to bring in their mail-in ballot. So they're saying, well, look, I'm being treated worse because I've got this mail-in ballot versus absentee, and there's no point. Like, what's the reason for doing that? Well, there isn't a very good reason for doing that at all.
There's not.
No, and so a federal judge was like, yeah, you're right, and this is an issue, so what I'm going to say is if you've got an absentee or a mail-in ballot, you can go ahead and drop those off in person. That's okay, too. And it was the judge put it into effect immediately, said immediately this is what has to happen, and that within minutes, the Secretary of State of Missouri and the Attorney General of Missouri appeal that decision together, and the next day, so yeah, like 7 hours, something like that, maybe a little bit longer, like 10, maybe 10, the judge, yeah, well, this was a great conversation. I'm very happy that you're able to come on, but I want to give you an opportunity, since election's almost here, right? And there might be a few folks who are watching who are a little undecided, or maybe they haven't looked yet. Maybe they haven't looked through their ballot yet. They don't know who's going to be on the ballot. What is some closing thoughts that you have, having gone through this journey, having started where you started from, and now here you are running for us. So exciting, running for office. And,
Were you shocked as I was when I was running for office, said I was running for office?
I was shocked, honestly. I was shocked that you weren't already running.
Were you really? Because
Yeah,
it was on my next 2022's bucket list.
Was it really?
It was.
Yeah.
But
when I met you, I was like, she needs to be running. And then when you did, I looked around, all these folks, and I was like, oh, she's going to be good. Like, this is good. This is, we need people. And, obviously in an election, somebody wins, somebody loses, all this stuff happens, right? And I just feel, I've always felt that we want the strongest folks, wherever we can get them from, to be running. And then the choices, at the end of the day. Now in Missouri, we haven't really had that opportunity. We're lucky if we can get good people to run right now.
Right,
and we do have a lot of good people who are.
We do.
Yeah, I was very happy to see that you decided to do that.
Yeah, I'm excited that St. Charles does not have an empty seat. There's a Democrat running in every district in St. Charles County, and that is awesome. I'm so excited about that, just to have a choice for everybody. Yeah. I win or lose, right? You said that there's a winner and there's a loser. I think I'm going to win. I know it's tight. It started out, where you sit as far as like your DPI, and I've closed it and I've closed it and I've closed it to the point now where it's going to be a nail biter, for me anyways. And I just want to leave everybody with the whole reason that I'm doing this now and not in 2022 is because firsthand I saw how broke we really are in our state legislature. Whether it be they're not good legislatures because it's maybe too we've got that majority on the other side. It just needs to be shaken up. And the reason it needs to, and how we shake it up is we bring that change, we bring in new people and that are willing to one, listen to every single person in your district, regardless of what party they're with and whether you agree with them on why they're calling and reaching out to you or not. And the second thing is we've got to get everybody at the table once we're in Jefferson City. We've got to start talking to each other. One of the things that I did while I was there is I lobbied legislators on the LGBTQ issues because, and many of them were Republican, and I had good conversations with them there as well. They will listen. We can talk if they're allowed to talk, and they aren't all allowed to have those conversations out loud. And I've had them reach out to me, which is cool. It's shocking when you get that call. But that they're good job. You did a good job. I'm glad you came. I'm glad you're doing this. I hope I get to work with you. That's flattering for somebody, yeah, it's flattering. It's a great feeling to know that people want to talk and talk to me and know that I can bring that change, and that's going to be every single voice in the district. I don't care who you are. I don't care if I agree with you or if you don't agree with me. However, I still want to hear from you, because if I don't hear from you, I don't get a feeling for the district. And that's what's happening now. Our current representative doesn't have a feel for the whole of the district, and so we aren't all being represented. And I want to bring that. That's what I do. I lift up voices. That's what I've done forever, whether it be women, kids, uh, people of color. I mean, just that's where you always find me, and I lift those voices, and that's the point of me running now. Bring everybody to Jefferson with me, maybe not physically, but their voice. And that's something I can do. And so, if you haven't read the ballot, that's where I say, I hope I earn your vote. And I hope you oppose awful Amendment 3 or horrible Amendment 3. and and because once we get there, if we're going to hold the vote, we don't want it overturned. I that is not in anybody's best interest, right? To have a party or a group of people say, "Oh, I don't like it because it doesn't work for us." So we're going to write some legislation and get it back on the ballot so that we can see if it could maybe go our way. And they know that Amendment 3 is not going to go our way. I mean, I used, everybody saw that committee hearing. I've used it in my own advertising for my campaign. They know that it's not going to pass, but they did it anyways because they can. And that's the attitude that I'm tired of. They can, the cavalierness. Let's just bring the change, bring the real people who want to see benefit for everyone. That's why I'm running. And that's why I hope everybody who watches and who I've talked to votes for me, because we will bring the change and we will do it together.
Chris Hyman, candidate for Missouri House 105. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I was looking forward to it. I'm glad we did it.
This is great. Well, stick around for just a little bit. I'm going to close out everybody. Oh, by the way, everybody, if you want to find more, learn more about Chris, you're going to be Christine on the ballot, right?
I am Christine on the ballot,
Okay,
and my website is Christine for Missouri. Look at that. Oh, you're so good. Because usually I have to go all spelled out. For is spelled out, Missouri is spelled out. Yeah. ChristineForMissouri.com. And that phone number that is on my website goes straight to me. I want to talk to you. It doesn't go through my campaign manager. It comes straight to me. And so call me. That's what I'm here for. I want to answer questions. I want to hear what everybody thinks. And anything else that we didn't get a chance to talk about here in this hour is on that website.
Great. Awesome. Give her a call, everybody.
Text. I like text.
Texter instead. Texting is it's so much easier. Yeah, but yeah, please text the number on there. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Chris. Hold up for just a bit. I'm going to close everybody out, and then
thanks, Elad.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, well, everybody, thank you all so much for coming. I think we might have had a couple of interruptions, but that's okay. We can get all this stuff merged together in a final video when I get it up on the website. But thanks for your patience through all of that. If you do have any comments, go ahead and leave them. And thanks so much for watching. Next week, we will be having an episode on Clean Missouri and Amendment 3 specifically. So we'll be able to answer a whole bunch of questions there. That will be, again, Saturday at the normal time at 1 o'clock Central. So make sure to check it out. But we'll be on there. I'll get the links and everything up for you soon. But yeah, in the meantime, you all can check out the website. We'll get everything updated for you so you can watch the videos anytime at eladgross.live. Take care, everybody.